I have to sit back and laugh at these NFL teams. They all think that their job is done at free agency. They're kicking back. They're getting ready for the draft. They're relaxing. And Howie Roseman hasn't even made his move yet. He hasn't even made his move. He is preparing for a major offensive. And when he goes, everybody is going to be rattled. He will shake the NFL world because there are big moves yet to be made.
Dallas still stinks.
Yo, by the way, Kick Dingbat here, and hope everybody's having a great day. Hope you guys are doing. Hope you're hanging in there. So Howie Roseman is preparing for his major offensive. That's right, his major offensive. While other teams sit back and kick back and think that they had a great offseason and free agency and they're going to sit back until the draft, Howie Roseman is preparing. He's preparing for his major offensive, and the NFL ain't going to know what hit him when it happens. And I don't say this out of thin air. He does this every year. He's always good for this once or twice in an off season. And I think it's coming. It's just a matter of when. Pause. Now, before we get into it, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, make sure you hit that like button. More importantly, make sure you subscribe for daily Eagles content, NFL content. This is the most censored, most throttled, pause, Eagles content creator in all of the internet. You don't want to miss it, so make sure you're subscribed. And if you've been subscribed for a while, thank you for all your support. Just hit that like button and make sure everything's going on. Last few days, notifications have been whacked out. So just check and make sure everything's good. Now, let's talk about this because I have a lot to say here, okay? So before we do that, all right, now we're ready to begin. So, I said at the beginning of this video, Howie Roseman is getting ready for his major offensive. What do I mean by that? It's simple. Howie has big plans. He's got a big plan. He's got a big move to make. This is something I talk about every year. Everybody tells me I'm crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. Then he does it. Howie is always good for one of these major curveballs, major big moves, at least one time, maybe two, every off season. And I expect it to happen again. Now, I'm not talking about like a move like signing Kevin Bijan because he gets cut. I'm not talking about that. I think Howie's going to make a major trade or a major move. Something's going to happen that's going to shake everything up. It's just a matter of when. And if I had to guess, it's going to be in the draft. I believe while most people promote the idea of trading back and getting more picks, while everybody thinks that that's what the Eagles are going to do, I think the opposite's going to happen. I think the Eagles are trading up. And the reason I say that is when you look at the players that they lost, Javon Hargrave, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Sayamalu, they need guys that could come in and be instant impact. Okay, yes, you're building through the draft for the future. Of course, we all want to do that. But you also have to try to get some players that can come in and contribute right now. The Eagles need blue chip players. They need young, talented players. And they need at least that first pick to be somebody that can contribute in the first year. And I believe that the Eagles are going to look for guys that can do that in the first round. They're going to be looking for contributors who can start right away. And there are three guys that I think are most likely for it to happen to. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson Jr., and Bijan Robinson. I think one of those three guys will or very well could end up a Philadelphia Eagle. Now, it takes two to tango, and this may be the Eagles' MO, and it just may not work out because they couldn't pull a deal off. That we'll never know. But I do think these are the guys that they're most likely to try to trade up for. The guy I think that is most likely to have that happen is Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter is the most likely. The one reason I say that is because he's probably going to drop in the draft. Is he going to go as far as 10? Maybe not. However, I think he'll be at 8. I think he'll be at 9. I think he'll be right around 7 and 9. And that puts you in the wheelhouse to make a trade up. And when you look at Jalen Carter, okay, and you look at perfect fits for the Eagles, he would be a perfect fit for the Eagles. He would be a complementary pick, a complimentary piece next to Jordan Davis, and then you'd have Fletcher Cox to basically teach him and Jordan Davis for one whole year. I think part of the reason Fletcher Cox came back this year was to help Jordan Davis out, because Jordan Davis has to show that he's ready to take that next step. He was great against the run, especially for his injury. I thought he was really coming along, but he also came in obviously not in good enough shape, and he's got to work on his pass rush. So that's why I think Fletcher Cox came back. Now, Jalen Carter, he may be the perfect fit for Philly, but Philly may be the perfect fit for him. And why do I say that? It's not just because I'm an Eagle fan, okay? But here's how I see it, and here's how I see this Jalen Carter situation. He goes through the whole thing where he races, reckless driving, his friend gets in an accident, his teammate, and dies. This has to affect him greatly, okay? They were being immature, they were being stupid, and his friend lost his life. He got charged with 2 misdemeanors, which he pled no contest. I don't think any other charges have come his way. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't exactly know what's going on in this kid's head. But my suspicion is this. Here's a guy that just lost a friend. Then he goes to the combine. He's humiliated when there's a warrant out for his arrest. He has to leave the combine in front of all those NFL teams, go back to Georgia, turn himself in, and then he has to get ready for the pro day. I think this kid clearly, all those issues off the field were bothering him in the lead up to the pro day. This is why he came in 9 pounds heavier than he was at the combine. This is why he was out of shape doing the drills and breathing heavy and not even finishing them. His head's not in it. And I think his weight and his shape and his conditioning kind of proved that point that all that off the field stuff was bothering him. He's a kid, made a terrible mistake. He probably feels really guilty, and maybe he needs to talk to somebody or something like that, okay? Now, the reason why I think the Eagles could be the perfect spot for him is because a guy like that who's going through that, who maybe needs a mentor, maybe needs to have people he can support, who can support him, have around him. What other better place than the Philadelphia Eagles, who have 2 of his teammates, Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean? For them to be in Philly and him to come into Philly would be an easier transition for him. It would give him some support. By all accounts, Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis are stand-up kids. They're really good kids. And they could be the support that a Jalen Carter needs. So the Eagles may look at that and bring him in because of that, and want to get him because of that. And Jalen Carter would come in and be an instant starter. He would instantly play and instantly contribute. And remember, I believe in the first round, you've got to get contributors who play this year, okay? I know we're building for the future as well as now, but I want to go back to the Super Bowl. And the NFC is weak. And if you go and you get players that can come and play right away, you can get back there. I think Jalen Carter could be one of those guys. And it makes sense for multiple reasons why he would end up in Philly. And so I think he's the most likely move the Eagles make that would shock everybody. The other one would be Will Anderson Jr. Yeah, let's take Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. Let's combine them, and then we have Will Carter, the greatest defensive player in the history of sports. Yeah, Will Carter. It's like Philly, Denzel Washington. Pinky up. Pinky up when you drink. You got to show you have class. Yeah. Now, Will Anderson Jr. is another guy. I think the Eagles would love to have him. They would look at him as an instant contributor to come in and play. You got Brandon Graham, who's older. He's probably not going to be back next year. So you could use him. And I think they would love Will Anderson Jr. But things would have to go your way. Okay? Like, for example, the Cardinals would have to want to trade out of that position. Now, they're going to have pressure to trade out because teams are going to want to get up and jump the Colts to get a quarterback. So this may happen. But if, let's say, the first 4 picks are quarterbacks, okay, because somebody trades with the Cardinals trade out, that's where I think the Eagles could look to trade up to maybe 5 with Seattle. Seattle's looking for multiple picks. See, Seattle's looking for multiple picks because they need multiple holes filled. Pause. They're a lot further away than we are, okay? So that could be a situation where you could trade up. If Will Anderson Jr. if he gets to 5, I think the Eagles could try to make a play for him. But it would depend how the draft goes. And like I said, the only way I see that, Jonathan Gannon and the Cardinals have to trade out. And I think there's a possibility of that happening. So Will Anderson Jr. would be another one. And then another guy is Bijan Robinson. Because Bijan Robinson could come in right now. He could run for 1,000 yards in the NFL. He could go out and get 1,000 yards. Behind the Eagles' offensive line, that would happen. He'd probably win Rookie of the Year. Okay, he would be an instant contributor, and he would upgrade your running back depth tremendously. You know, I know everybody likes Penny, and listen, Penny has got a lot of talent, but he's got to stay healthy. Boston Scott, he's only got 1 year left. Gainwell, I don't know that I trust him to start. I know a lot of you guys do, but I don't yet. So I think if the Eagles really wanted to make a splash and come away with an instant starter, you could go for Bijan Robinson. Now, you're not going to draft Bijan Robinson at 10. Every time I talk about him, I always get people say, well, you're not taking him 10. I don't want him at 10. I want a defensive player. Okay, but if I got, let's say Jalen Carter just fell to 10 and the Eagles were able to sit there and draft him, okay, then if I could get Bijan Robinson, I would come away with 2 starters, in my opinion, 2 guys that are going to play on offense and defense first year. That's huge. I would take the 30th pick. Then I would take that second round pick I have next year. And I showed you in one of my other videos, you got tons of compensatory picks coming. You've got multiple third round picks. You can afford to trade away that second. And if you really need to get up in the second round, you still have the ammo to do it next year. So use that second round pick this year as collateral. And I would take that 30th pick. I would take that second round pick. I don't know. I'd trade Derek Barnett, throw Derek Barnett in, throw Quez Watkins, throw somebody else in, or a mid-round pick, and go out and trade that 30th pick, that second round pick, and move up as far as it takes to trade up and then draft Bijan Robinson. Now, this is not what people do. Teams do not want to draft running backs the first round. Eagles especially don't usually want to draft running backs in the first round. But one thing Howie has said over and over again, you can't keep doing the same thing. You can't keep doing what everybody else is doing. When everybody goes left, at some point you've got to go right. And if you do that, there's value in going right, because while everybody's taking all the players from one side or one position, then you're getting the best player at another position. So the Eagles, possibly by just changing things up a little bit and surprising people, they could trade up, get Bijan Robinson, probably wins Rookie of the Year, instant starter, and all of a sudden the Eagles could come away with 2 starters in the first round. That's what I think they should do. That is the play. You want to come away with blue chip, franchise-changing type players. And there's not a lot of them, but the 3 guys that I mentioned are all, to me, franchise game-changing players. They're blue chip players. And I love the idea that you would have a running back tied up for the next 4 to 5 years under a rookie contract, especially with the talent Bijan Robinson has. I mean, if you look at most draft guides that talk about just overall talent, he's a top 5 talent in the draft. He's a top 5 talent in the draft. But we're so hung up on, well, he's a running back. We can't have running back. We can't value running backs. Well, if everybody's undervaluing something, okay, when something's undervalued and it keeps being undervalued and it keeps being undervalued, eventually it becomes worth something. It eventually becomes a really good deal to buy it, to get it. Okay, you have you want a computer, right? A certain computer you want, it's really high, and you keep watching, it goes down. There's going to be a point where it gets to the price that you're willing to pay. And you're like, I'm ready. It's time. I think this year, with the way that things are set up with Jalen Hurts' contract, with the way that things are set up with our team, you're not going to have a team that is exactly looking like the team you had last year. You're going to have to find a way to improve it in a different way. Bijan Robinson is the perfect guy. I say draft 5. That's my slogan for this draft. Draft 5. Because Bijan Robinson, I think he's outstanding. And if you play your cards right, if the Eagles play their cards right and maybe get a little lucky, you could come out possibly with Jalen Carter and Bijan Robinson in the first round. I truly believe it. And yeah, you might not have as many draft picks in this draft. That's all right. You're loaded the following year. You can sign a bunch of undrafted free agents. But you got to come away with players that hopefully can contribute and start this year. That's what I want. I want guys that can contribute and start this year. So that's where I look for Howie to make the big move, the big shocking move. And it may be two of them. And it may be, drafting a Jalen Carter 10 if he falls, and then trading for Bijan Robinson. And listen, I throw those three guys out because to me, those are the three most likely in my mind. If there's other guys out there, if there's a corner out there, if there's a safety like everybody talks about Branch, if there's somebody out there that the Eagles look at and say, this guy can start this year right away, those are the guys that I have to value and try to get because I want the best of both worlds. I want to solve my problems for this upcoming season, and I want to take care of my future. And I think this draft is about getting players that can contribute right away. The Eagles are too close to going back to the Super Bowl. They're too good of a team to sit there and say, you know what, we're not going to try to do anything to improve our team this upcoming year. We're only focused down the road. I don't think they're going to do that. If the Eagles were 3-4 years away from really being competitive, I would never draft a running back in the first round. I wouldn't touch a running back in the first round. But when I have a great team and they're ready to go to the Super Bowl and all I have to do is drop that running back on that team, that's the time to do it. That's when the value is perfect. And that's why I think the Eagles are going to do something like that. I don't know what it is, and I don't know if those are the exact players, but I do think Howie Roseman is thinking about not just next year, but this year also. That's why you bring back guys like Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. That's why you sign James Bradbury and redo Darius Slay's contract. Because you're trying to win next year as well as the future. And if that's the case, then we need to look at the first round as not just for the next 3-4 years, but we need to look at the first round as what instant starters can we get and can come out of this draft. Just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. With that said, take care. Talk to you later, of course. Don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's Howie Vision. We're all just living in it. You hear this? You hear this? My butt has destroyed this chair. Has destroyed it. But I got good news. I got a new chair. It's here. I'm getting ready to put it together. It is a beautiful big chair built for Denzel Washington. I can't wait to have it and cut the squeaking out. You know what I'm saying? Denzel Washington out.